hello. This is Daniel Kanow with Breakthrough Art. We have an artist interview here with Peter Mohlman. I was just out there in Seattle, Pacific Northwest, visiting my daughter who goes to UW. And we went on a beautiful trip to the San Juan Islands, out to Orcas Island. We just were doing an interview and it got cut, so we're starting fresh again. Peter's back, and I feel like I know Peter better now. We got to hang out for 20 minutes and kind of have a good conversation, and we're starting fresh here. So, Peter, welcome. Thank you so much for entering and being part of my artist interviews that I offer with my art coaching business. And tell me briefly about yourself, how you got to where you are in Orcas Island, sitting in that gallery space. Give us a synopsis.
Absolutely. And nice to meet you. And thanks for visiting the gallery and inviting me to be a part of your audience. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
I'm so happy to share my joy with you and with people who might watch this.
Very good.
I'll replay a little bit of my history that we were talking about, just so those viewing can get a little sense of where I come from. So I grew up on a farm in New Jersey, which was close to Manhattan. So I had the best of both worlds of growing up in the country and living close to a major city. And growing up, I was able to visit all the different museums in Manhattan and in New Jersey.
When you were going to Manhattan from your farm life in New Jersey, were there specific museums or areas, artwork that kind of pulled you in and got you excited when you were a youth?
Absolutely. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is one of the most amazing places in the universe. It is a wealth of information.
Where would you go in the Met? Like, where's your spot that you would go as a kid?
As a kid, my favorite spot was downstairs in the Arabic area, where they had these old texts. And there was a room that was reassembled from Morocco, and it was a sultan's harem room. Wow. And it was this beautiful, ornate, tiled room with a small fountain in the middle with all of these plush cushions around. And at the time, you can just sit there and enjoy all of the mosaics and the beautiful.
That's awesome.
It was incredible.
What a formative experience to have as a child, to be able to go and sit into a space like that and be fully absorbed and immersed in something so exotic and different than our culture.
It was a lot different than the farm in New Jersey, that's for sure.
100%. And then you were telling me from there, you made your way out to New Orleans and art school and to Atlanta. How were you informed from those early childhood experiences that you then took into New Orleans, into Atlanta, to have such a kind of a wealth of influence? One, big nature on a farm, and then two, being able to immerse yourself in the Met and Central Park and all the other museums around there. How did that build that foundation and influence you to then bring it into art school, to then bring you full circle back to where you are now?
I think as a younger person, having the exposure to see bodies of work and know that it's possible, that you too can do it. Mm-hmm. I was very fortunate to get into an excellent high school that focused on art. And in that place in New Orleans, it was called the New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts. And in that place, I learned so much about how to see and how to feel and how to look. And those things
see, feel, and look.
Those three things really resonated with me. I was taught to look at things differently. And my dad was a photographer. We would always walk around and do this and crop things as we were walking, and appreciate not just a large oak tree with Spanish moss and the sun setting and hitting it just right, but composing it and looking at it in terms of how you would share that information. There's the inspiration you get when you look at something beautiful and it fills you with a feeling. And as you edit, you can intensify that feeling. And once you if you capture it, you can share and bottle that emotion that you felt that it brought out in you.
You know what that brings up for me, Peter, is you're talking about looking through a scope or something, which is so interesting, looking at the artwork around you. You've got this beautiful vista sunset on one side of you, and then you've this micro focus of a marine wildlife in the ocean that is very small that you have focused into and made large. It's so what you just told of that story is like right there around you. It's very evident that, you know, you would do what is that, like a sea, or it's not a sea urchin,
An anemone.
an anemone, which
Yeah.
is very small. You know, they're about this big, and you made it large. So that means you were able to zoom in, taking what you learned as a child with your dad and putting it into your artwork. And that's like, I didn't know that story when we were speaking earlier. So really cool that I was able to just gather that from you and seeing it live, of how that influenced your own artistic training. Tell us more about how that high school experience of being in an art high school influenced you then to be at an art school in Atlanta.
I was very fortunate that when I got to New Orleans, my father was there. My parents had split up. My dad was living in New Orleans, and he was often working either as a photographer or on a tugboat or doing laser shows for events.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Wow.
was largely unsupervised, and I got to
Uh-huh.
run around New Orleans and experience at the tender age of 16. And I learned so much about being brave and exploring and looking and seeing new places. And for me, the city of New Orleans was so foreign to anything I had known. And I was forced into a situation where I had to find who I was in a new place. And that was a formative experience for me.
That probably helped you to, as you've created your own voice as an older teen, to bring that into your artwork. Because, you know, like you had mentioned prior, when you go to art school, it's very academic. You're being taught how to see, how to look, how to see value and contrast, composition. And it sometimes those tools can be excellent, but at other times it does kind of scrape away the personal voice of yourself, because we're
Mm.
just practicing. It's like learning scales on a guitar, just learning and learning, but you're not playing your own music yet. That voice, what enabled your voice to come out with your work so that you can express the joy, the color, the feeling, the beauty to then portray with others?
Good question. I think what it is for me is when I have a feeling of something I'm looking at and it engenders in me something strong where I respond, and I want to capture that and I want to be able to share it. I want to show somebody else how I feel about something. And in order to do that, I may have to exaggerate something, or I might have to focus in on something or alter it in some way. And when I went to art school for the first time, I learned that it was okay, that you didn't necessarily have to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. That, as the Irish say, the truth has nothing to do with a good story. And when I started painting, I mostly focused on photographs because they didn't run away and the lighting didn't change. And
Mm-hmm.
that learned my technical skill. And so I developed that initially. And then in art school, I was taught things like being given a 6-foot bamboo rod and attaching a paintbrush to the end and painting 6 feet away
Yes.
from canvas. And that really opened me up to learning about expression and line and tension and all of these things that you can't do when you're focused on a photograph that's on a
Right.
coffee table.
I got one of those right here. Here's my here's my rod with
Nice.
my paintbrush. It does make a big difference to be
Yeah.
able to paint, be unabashed with your artwork and not be concerned with high detail. And the detail that you create comes from that place of joy, right? It's
I can
like,
see that in your work behind you.
yeah.
There's an overall feeling and it feels good. I feel the wind, I feel the feeling of being there. I don't
Yeah,
need to see
and
the details to get that information.
exactly. And like I teach as well. And one thing I tell my students, because as you talked about being able to look at something small, it's like every painting has a piece of abstraction to it. The highest
Absolutely.
realist Norman Rockwell, you could zoom into a section that's 3 by 3 inches, and it could be
Yeah.
a Franz Klein. It doesn't, that's kind of like when we look at the Earth from outer space or from these drone photos that we're able to see in videos now. I mean, we live in a place that's just a giant canvas changing all the time. So it seems like you're tapping into that, and you live in Orcas Island. I will say that area is incredibly beautiful. You are a very lucky person to have made that where you are living. Of course, I haven't been there in the middle of the winter when it's really gray and it's just raining tremendously. I got it on a great weekend when it was hot and sunny, and that is a beautiful place. Very beautiful place.
It sure is. Yeah, it's incredible. I feel like you're interviewing, this interview could be called The Luckiest Man on Earth. I'm getting to do what I've always dreamed of. And I feel so privileged to have this ability to be in such a remarkable place and do what I absolutely love. It's just, I want to share that, and I want to be able to make it happen for other people. It's wonderful here.
As you make that art for yourself, which then gets shown to other people because you have a gallery space and a teaching space. You know, I live in Telluride, Colorado. I don't know if you've been here. It's similar to like Orcas, where it's a premier, beautiful. I mean, this is my backyard, having mountain peaks like this all over the place. It allows you to step into the sublime, you know, into like these quiet, open spaces at different times of the day where you're like, wow, every day I am so lucky to be here. This place is like, how can I even capture this on a canvas? What can I capture that actually is a piece of that essence? It's not a photograph that is capturing, you know, your perspective. And it seems like you're doing that with your work, that that's part of your vision. Am I correct on that, that you're seeking to capture that essence of that space where you live?
Definitely. Absolutely. 100%. So much so that I have a book that I sell in the store, and it's a book of depictions of different places on the island with a little logo of Orcas Island with a dot where each painting was created.
You know, I went to the cooperative gallery that you told me to visit the next day after I visited with you with my daughter. And I saw your work there, and I saw that book. And I thumbed through that book. I was like, that's a brilliant idea. You basically did a montage book giving the experience of that island at different times of the day in different places from your own personal perspective. Well done. I was very impressed with that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in the business of, in the commercial side, of selling memories. People come here, they have a wonderful time. And so many times I've heard people say, I'd love to take a little piece of the island home with me. And by offering prints and books and things, people can have a memory that they can put on their wall or put on their coffee table and remember fondly what a nice experience they had here. It's a beautiful place.
When I looked at your work, I was also very impressed by like your small watercolor paintings where you have this very deep value contrast. They feel kind of raw, done in the moment, more unedited. And as you can see from my work, I like more of the unedited aspect. The polish is great, but it's like for me, I also like it to have some coarseness. You go between watercolor, acrylics, oils. You're using everything. Like what is like? Tell me your modality of the materials you're using and when you choose to use what you want to use and why.
Sure. For me, inspiration, it's unreliable. I'm not always fully charged about any given medium. So if a lot of mediums around me, then I can tailor how I feel like creating to what I have at hand. And because I have all
Like
those
that.
different mediums at the ready, and I have tables on wheels and shelves, and I've organized it so that in a flash I can go into watercolor or go into acrylic or oil and fully get into it as quickly as possible, because I can lose that inspiration really fast. And so I've designed my studio in a way that I can create something quickly, or at least get into something and begin it quickly. Like the painting behind me is not finished, and that was a flash of inspiration. I happened to have a canvas, I had the paint out, and I just went for it. I jumped in with that energy, that excitement, and that passion in the beginning. And sometimes I lose it. I for whatever reason I can't go back in, and I forgive myself and I say it's okay, and I set it aside and I wait for that flash again, which happens, and then I jump back in with renewed vigor. And so for me, I have to have many different things going at once, like those watercolors you mentioned. I offer classes where people join me to hike around a beautiful lake, and we stop and we paint, and then we stop again and paint some more, and then we come back to the gallery and we have a critique. And I've found that people look at their own work, myself included. I look at it one way at one point in time. If I'm doing plain, I view it one way, maybe a little critically. But when I come back to the gallery, there's things I absolutely love about it when I've come
Yeah.
back, and I can those things. So for me, having lots of different ways of communicating nearby really helps with managing my inspiration. And I don't like to say it that way, because in some way it diminishes the inspiration to say manage, but it's not always there. And I wish it was, but we can't have it all. I wish I was as inspired as when I started that one. All the there. So I find ways to get myself to be that inspired again and again and again.
That's very beautifully said. We are having a little bit of technical issues. You're glitching a little bit on your screen, but I'm hoping that all came through. And what you had said about that inspiration, I think, is so beautiful. And I love how you would take students around and have them do work. And then when you work outside and then you bring it inside, it looks so different. When you work on a canvas in a studio with a group of people and then you put it on the wall with a frame around it, it looks so different. So there's so many variables of how the work changes. And you said that painting behind you on your left is newer, is not finished. I'd love if you can maybe rotate your chair a little bit so we can see a larger view of that. And you could tell us about that. It's got such dynamic energy. It feels, having just been there, I can sense that kind of sunset over the water. So tell us more.
Sure, thanks. Well, there's a place where creative people on the island often go and get together to enjoy sunsets. So it's a place called West Beach Resort. And there's a campground, some cabins that line the shore with little areas where families can have campfires. And it just
Yeah.
feels like one of those places where people are letting go and having a really nice time and unwinding. And when I paint that scene, I feel that way. I feel like I'm on vacation, and I'm
Nice.
having that opportunity to really focus on enjoyment and look at a sunset, take it in, watch it change, and find things in it that represent how I feel. And oftentimes when I go there, it's to unwind after a busy day, and I'll sit and I'll enjoy. I might do some watercolor sketching or pencil sketching, or just talking with friends. But always the focus being there in the evenings is the sunset. It's so absolutely beautiful. Even when it's not the best sunset ever, still it's a place where you can feel that distance. And I love capturing that. I've painted that view countless times at this point, and I even call it my daily doodle. I'll stop work on a big canvas and I'll use the paint on my palette to do small ones, and I hang them on a wall. And I've got it to a point now where I've merchandised it to be, it's called the San Juan series. And it's paintings just like that, but small, just very like 8x10, about that size. And I've done it so many times that even when I'm painting it from my imagination, that feeling is still there, that playful feeling of color. And that's where I can experiment and do things like put a chartreuse green with a bright orange, and then throw in some purple islands. And lately, it seems to me that people are really responding to the wildness and the crazy colors, and me
Yeah.
just letting go.
That letting go is so important. I think that kind of builds an authenticity for people and for yourself. One, it allows you to be more free and liberated with your work. And then it allows people to be like, yeah, I can feel that sense of light change as the sun is setting over the islands. The islands do turn purple.
Yeah.
That orange and red, it does happen. It might be a very fleeting moment. And I've heard of West Beach. We didn't get there. My wife stayed at that campsite that you're talking about the last time she visited a year ago. And they weren't available. So we ended up going to Doe Bay on the other
Yeah.
side of the island and over there, which was, very beautiful as well. I'm very impressed with that island. you're telling me that piece is unfinished. And, as a painter myself, process is very important to me. I almost feel like process, the play, the moment of the creation in that space, to me, is almost more important than what we call the finished piece. And I'm curious, and I often ask this to artists, is like, why is it unfinished to you? Why couldn't you just call it done? And if it's not done, what's next?
Great question, and a very difficult one to answer at times. I feel like it could be done, but my process won't allow that verdict. And the reason being is there's a level, especially with a larger piece, and I'm new to larger pieces. That's not my history, painting larger things. So I'm new to it. And so for me, I'm a bit biased. There's a painting I have in front of me, which is also, well, it's a copy of a painting that's of the same place. And if you look at it, it has a little more resolution, a little more finish.
Yep. It's
And
beautiful.
thank you. And there's a feeling I get when I see something that's fully resolved. And I'm not sure about what that feeling exactly is, but when I feel it, I know it. I know it's done. And possibly I could be suffering from my own training and experiences. But when I look at things like there's some purple lines in the orange there, and they seem to be a little too distinct. They stand alone too much for me, and so that's a place where I know I'm going to go back in, do a little more work, and I like the overall feeling, but I'm trying to balance a graphic style with a more fine art style. And so
Yeah.
for me, there's that when I achieve that blend, and I'm not sure what the exact percentage is of how graphic versus how painterly or how refined. I'm not sure what it is, but I know it when I feel it. When I look at it and there's nothing, I guess ultimately it boils down to if there's nothing for me to critique, then I know I'm done.
And that's
Which is
really
hard.
it's
Yeah.
very hard. It's a fine line, I think, that is always changing for an artist of what is done and what is not done. With your art, I'm sure you've had experiences. Watercolor, for example, which is a very quick and fast material, but the same thing with oils or acrylics or even sketching, where you'll make something in 20 minutes and you're like, whoa, I could just call it. Like, if I change it, I'm not going to have that feeling anymore. Like what I was able to get out so quickly, and it feels complete. And I think most of the time we keep going because we want to keep developing technicality. We want to kind of bring it into the state of resolution, so we're not questioning anymore. Then there's also, well, will other people think that it's, why are you just showing a piece that you just worked, you just started? We have all these conversations, whether it's ourselves or the viewer or somebody else that might be giving us perspective on that's why I think when I saw your watercolors, I could sense that was more unedited and was more of that painterly. And then you have work that you get like the image you just showed, that you held up. It does have more of a graphic sense where you have refined and really captured that sky is coming over like this. I mean, I only saw it for a moment and I could still see it. It's like I can sense that energy. So I could see where you might want to take that painting and kind of develop that, that style or that emphasis of detail. But in the same saying, hey, that what you do with those watercolors is equally as awesome. That you could, it can be as equally as like messy and still can create that completeness for ourselves or for whomever else. Peter, what do you see as art being in the world right now? We're in a place of such, people would say, uncertainty, chaos, change, transition, and the arts continue. We have AI, we have photography, we have so many things that some people go, oh, art is dead. I can just speak into my phone and make an image. I just tell it what I want it to be. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but you're not making the image. It's not coming through you. So in this place of the world, where do you see art as being like, how is it an anchor for humanity in your perspective to kind of get through with that optimism and that joy?
Wow, that's a big question, and I like it. I think technology has really helped. It's helped me grow, and I think it's helped me share. And I think it can be limiting, like you said, with AI and those things that can create ideas and images that to be worked from. But I think the ability to use the technology, like the amazing amount of features that one can take advantage of with their phone that they
Yeah.
walk around. When I go for hikes in the morning, I have my phone in my pocket, and there's a trail I love. It's called Turtleback, and I go up to elevation and I walk around. And if I see something, I can do a quick snap of it. I could even do a little sketch while I'm there. And then when I get back to the studio, it's amazing to have a record that is so nice to enlarge and to look at and to get back into that feeling. And I think technology has helped in that. It's hurt in other ways where people rely too much on technology. And I think in terms of what's going on in the world today and how art is impacting the world, I think in these times of chaos, there's so much turbulence and so many, it seems as if there's something happening every 3 seconds because of social media and people walking around with a connection to the world in their pocket. I think it's amazing the effect that is given from other people witnessing somebody slow down and take time and
Mm.
really appreciate something as simple as how a sunset makes you feel. And that to me is a real salve for what's going on. And I think it's so helpful that there are artists out there who are creating and offering something that's comforting, and they're able to share it. And there are so many different things that people reach for today that are unhealthy. And
Hmm.
to something that's healthy and it's part of something, you feel connected in a whole way. Like you're one element of appreciation that reaches out to other elements of
Yeah.
appreciation. Then, and I believe wholeheartedly that any endeavor that fosters a feeling of appreciation, I think that has an effect. It really does. And I see that effect because I'm on an island and people who come here, they're kind of trapped in this place of beauty. And I see them when they arrive, and sometimes they come back before they leave and they'll purchase a painting of mine or a print or a book. And I get that feeling that seeing the art and seeing somebody who's immersing themselves in it benefits them when they leave. And I think that is such a worthy endeavor. And I think more people should do it and share and feel that we're connected, because so many people right now are feeling disconnected. And to join with others and to share the creative experience, I
Hmm.
don't see anything better or more worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, wonderfully said. And it's a discussion we can go on for quite some
Oh,
time. You know, the act of making art and slowing down and not being on a screen and just drawing or painting or observing something, whether it's a non-objective from your imagination or you're out sitting on a point looking at a vista, it does slow you down. It does. You hear the birds, you see the leaves move. You're having to watch your hand mix colors. And sure, you can have technical aspects of what you want to achieve, but when you let go of even the technical aspects and you're just creating it, I think it does tap us into some deeper subconscious that's been going on for millennia, and it allows us to escape and also perhaps to emerge into something bigger than our small selves. And being in a place that's beautiful out here in Telluride, you see people show up, they're kind of amped, they came from the city or whatever, and even if they haven't made art or they saw some music or they just went hiking or they made art, they generally leave, like leaving the island, they generally leave this small area of the mountains happier than when they came, because like they were enriched by something that was bigger themselves in a place that's beautiful. So it's almost like using the art or music in a place like the San Juan Islands, or I live in the San Juan Mountains, is like it becomes a place of magic, right? It allows people to step into something bigger quicker. And if they're able to make some art while they're doing it, they're like, oh, wow, I'm really slowing down here. My partner's skiing, or we were going to go to the music festival, but instead we're just sitting here painting. And I love that. I love that about teaching, and I love that about my own work, and I see that within your work. How does that relate for you? You said you also do teaching as well. So tell me more about that.
I've recently discovered that I absolutely love to teach. There's a different side of me that comes out when I'm teaching, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can share in a way that I can't when I'm not teaching. If I'm
Yeah.
just hanging out and I meet some people somewhere and I'm talking, there's a different there's a different way in which I communicate. I'm trying when I'm teaching, I'm trying to share with something in mind. I'm being very specific about what I'm sharing, and I add into my teaching experiences, anecdotes, bits of personal history. I like to tell jokes and make people laugh. And
Yeah.
through the 1 year, I've had so many different classes with so many different types of people. Yesterday, a woman came into the store. It was celebrating her 89th birthday. And
Wonderful.
I said, "Oh my, that's amazing. What can I offer you a free painting class?" And I offered a 15-minute little watercolor instruction. And so because I have my gallery set up where things are on wheels and I could just roll out the watercolor table, put a few chairs around, and we had an impromptu class. And boy, she just loved it. She was really enjoying the technique of on wet and watching the colors disperse and learning about composition. But it was less about teaching her anything about art, but just watching her so immersed and so satisfied and happy with being able to do something that was expressive, that was completely unscripted. She had no idea this was going to happen, and it was a wonderful experience for her. And I feel like I'm lucky to be in that position that I can offer someone something that I know for a fact that she's going to remember for some time.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I can see just even as you talk about it, your body language and your voice tone changes when you're talking about that experience of working with her yesterday. That's a really, really great thing. Um, oh, looks like we lost Peter here. He glitched out, unfortunately. See if he pops back in. We've been interviewing Peter Mohlman from Orcas Island in the San Juan Islands of the Pacific Northwest off the coast of Washington, state of Washington. Beautiful area. If you've never been to the San Juan Islands, highly recommended. One of those places of nature where you get so filled up and inspired by the open space, the endless vistas, the kind people, and take that into your artwork. Let's see if he pops back in here. I'm sorry he had a little bit of a bad connection there at the end. Very impressed with his work. Great conversation about the importance of art in the world for us to slow down, for us to step into our own method of creativity. And I just want to say thank you very much for checking in with us. This might be him calling me. Let's see. Hello, we're still live. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I got Peter on the phone here, and we're just gonna check out here. And thank you very much, Peter, for participating in the interview. It's extremely wonderful to meet you. Oh, it looks like you're popping back in. All right, let's see if we can get you back in here. Add you back to the stage. All right, and we're back. That's great. It sounds like I still might be on a phone on your side.
Turn off your phone. No, you're good. You're not on another device here. Just the
Okay,
one.
I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if that'll come through or not.
Uh, Everything, the situation is still the same.
Okay.
Did you call Peter? You didn't call him, right?
No.
No, I didn't call you.
Okay, I'm going to turn down the volume on the sound. Okay, talk again.
Yeah, well, we're having a really nice experience, great conversation here. So, Peter, I just want to say thank you so much. You really enriched my perspective on your perspective of being an artist. And to be able to meet artists in beautiful places enriches me. When anywhere I travel in the world, I always try to go to beautiful places. And when I meet artists from those places, I'm like, you've got a great thing going on. Whether it's in Orcas Island or it's in Cusco, Peru, it's like you chose a good place to live and you've decided to make art to help enrich other people with the experience they're gathering. People who come to Orcas Island are coming for a reason to unplug. And the people who live there have made a choice to have a quieter life. And to, so I'm seeing that with your art as well, that it's really a great reflection of that capacity of humanity to slow down and touch into a bigger picture.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I agree. I think where you are informs and affects you as an artist and you as a person. And I can think, as you were talking, I was thinking about what you're saying about meeting people in like Cusco, Peru, or exotic locations around the world. And it occurs to me that creative people, they're almost drawn to beautiful places, like they're lured there by the enchantment of how beautiful it is and how special. And I think artists really have a different way of feeling about where they are in the world, and they're drawn to these places. When I lived in New York City in the East Village, there really wasn't a whole lot that was beautiful, aside from there are moments when you're looking above the 5-story buildings which predominate in the East Village, and you can see a beautiful sky above and lighting plays, but it's not natural, it's artificial. And to be somewhere that's naturally beautiful, I don't feel myself that I am fixated on how was that building made, or how come the garbage wasn't taken out over there.
Right.
Like, it's how God made it. And I love being immersed. And I had a friend who once told me that when you're walking around somewhere beautiful, one of the things that they told me they appreciated was that, and it sounds negative, but it's not, is that this place does not care about you. There's nothing here that references you as a human being. When you're in nature, nature is completely separate from you, and you're passing through it. You are in fact part of it, but it's a different kind of connection that in a city doing cityscapes, or in, say you're in a fishing village, or there's structure and there's organization and there's society around you. When I'm in nature and there's none of that, I feel a liberation. I feel free. And that freedom is something that I want to enjoy and share
Yeah.
and develop. I'd like to develop it and get more of it because it feels so good.
Well, I think you're doing that, Peter. So tell us the name of your gallery and how we can other people who see this video, they can find you, see your art, and where they could actually visit you in person.
Sure, I'd love to. My website is my name, petermohlman.com. And I'm here in East Sound, Washington, and that's on Orcas Island. And you have to take a beautiful ferry ride to get here. And it's a wonderful place. I absolutely love being here. And if anyone were to want to contact me, please do so through the website. And I'd be happy to open up any dialogues with other artists and share more about what I love about being an artist. I feel very lucky and blessed. And thank you so much for hosting me today. I'm honored to be on your channel.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be able to spend the time with you. I'm glad that we got to have a deep conversation and really go into what art means for us individually, the work that you're making, the conversations around from materials to nature, and the importance of being creative and putting ourselves out there and sharing with the world. As artists, we have a very large, some would say, burden to carry, or and I guess the paradoxical way would say is like we have a very noble path to walk, because it's something that's ancient and it's something that is continually needed. And the fact that for those who choose it, it's a hard path, especially when you take it into commercial and you try to set, your point is to sell, but the aspect of creating and making art and teaching art and sharing with others, I really appreciate that you're doing that and continuing that on in your place. So yes, thank you, Peter, very much sorry about that. Thank you very much for joining me here, and we'll follow up soon. You just hold on while we end the video, and I'll continue conversation with you for a few more moments. So thank you everyone for tuning in to Break Through Your Art in our interview here with Peter Mohlman from Orcas Island off the coast of Washington. Peter, thank you so much.
Thank
Cheers.
you. That was a real pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you.